gone, the rules are clear, and now what we're seeing is feelings that are coming from both ends of the negotiation table. I'm talking about the bipartisan talks between the Azimio coalition and the Kenya Kwanza government that have entered what we will seemingly assume as their third day. What we did get from the first day is that indeed it's clear from the Kenya Kwanza government that all the three irreducible minimums that were presented by the Azimio coalition led by Raila Amolo Odinga have been reduced to one, and that is the talks on the reconstitution of IEBC. It's also now clear pretty much on exactly what is the two sides in terms of how they are negotiating. We've seen exactly what the Azimio coalition has said, that if indeed the talks do not proceed as they anticipate, pretty much they'll be going back to the streets. This morning as well, we talk about how the clear revelations of why Raila Amolo Odinga the fifth did not happen. Now, details have emerged in his book that is Saitabao Ole Kenchuri, chief agent in a 2022 presidential election, is revealing about how indeed the infighting and struggles within the Azimio coalition team, that is a campaign team, did not really see to the end of that race. Now we're telling you this morning about how Azimio's latest chief agent in last year's presidential election, Saitabao Ole Kenchuri, spills the beans on the behind the scenes and intrigues that caused the opposition leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, is a victory, what they're calling the Tower of Babel station among coalition's top leaders. We'll be getting into that. And if you did watch that, I would say, question and answer session from one Kithure Kindiki, that's the interior CS, so what he said, that there was no shoot to kill order on crowds. A lot of questions did come about what we saw in the just stopped Azimio coalition mass action in the country. This is what he said, that indeed there was no shoot to order kill in the just stopped mass action by the Azimio coalition. And he says that the state has no tolerance whatsoever to extrajudicial killings. What he said, zero tolerance policy. We shall be talking about that once we get into what is even in the day list this morning, and also now what has been a story that has been covered here extensively on Lookuptv, the cash crunch that is in the counties now, as some counties stare at 3 months of no capitation. What are we staring at? A story that is continuing, and we have also covered heavily on our bulletins and on our online platforms, that is on social media platforms, and Lookuptv across all of them, our website www.lookuptv.co.ke, as well as what we have covered for you on all of those as well. We shall be getting into that as well. But once you're there on those social media platforms, you can actually jump into it. Give us a subscription, a like, and a comment. Will be much appreciated. Much to get into this morning. For now, let's take a tiny breather. Once we come back, I'll be taking you straight to what is trending in our news. Simba Kiage. Good morning. 75 people have been admitted at the Coast General Teaching and Referral Hospital in Mombasa following a rotavirus outbreak. Mombasa Governor Abdul Swamad Nasser has so far issued a red alert over the outbreak And let me just pick more details on that particular story. Indeed, there's issued a red alert over the outbreak of the virus in the county. Abigail Shira reports.
It is a situation that has sent a shocker and raised alarm to county government of Mombasa, as 75 people are admitted at the Coast General Hospital following an outbreak of rotavirus, especially in Kisauni area. The doctors now say the dreaded disease is caused by use of contaminated water and food. The symptoms are dire, as explained by Governor Nasir. Speaking during a meeting with the health officers, the governor gave advice to parents of children below 18 months on how to deal with this disease.
Department ya Public Health kuanzia sasa hadi mwezi wa June, all community health volunteers walioko katika Mombasa watakuwa katika stipend ya serikali ya kaunti ya Mombasa, na pia vilevile kutaanza mpangilio wa chanjo, na ningeomba wazazi watoto ambao hawajapata chanjo ya rotavirus musizuie wenye kupiga ile chanjo. Haya yote ni kwa sababu ya kuweza kuwafaa wale watoto.
Following the outbreak of this disease, the county government has called upon every ministry involved to ensure the safety of citizens and the food and water they consume.
Department ya Health wakishirikiana na Water kuhakikisha ya kuwa visima vyote vidogo katika Mombasa vitawekwa chlorination pots. Nimeambia waziri mwenye kuhusika na mambo ya ujenzi.
Abigail Shira for Lookuptv.
Let's move on now. The government has announced plans to restructure and, where possible, merge non-performing state-owned corporations. And as a reporter, Shadrach Kareria reports, thousands of government employees are at the risk of losing their jobs in the process. This comes amidst financial crisis facing the government.
It is evident that the government is broke. This is as thousands of employees working at government-owned corporations risk losing their jobs as a result of the same. Speaking in Nakuru County, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi stated that it is only 5% of the 75 commercial state-owned corporations which have been performing well and in return benefiting the government.
All public corporations have an obligation to remit all statutory deductions, pay as you earn, NHIF, NSSF. Some of them have not been doing that.
Mudavadi outlined the government plans of either restructuring or merging the non-performing corporations with those performing well, with an aim of ensuring that they are self-dependent, other than depending on the government for funding.
That target. Only 5% of the 79 have been remitting dividends to the exchequer. Others have now become dependent on the exchequer. We must reverse that trend. We have seen public servants losing their savings through some of these entities.
The example of the state-owned corporations includes Kenya Revenue Authority KRA, public universities, Kenya Airport Authority, tourism, and Kenya Forest Service, among others. This comes amid government and the opposition heated debate on who should be blamed, with the opposition vowing to oppose the government's plan.
So he brought it out that we all have to pull up our socks so that we can get out of that dangerous situation.
Kuna mambo mengi sana ambaye Wakenya walidanganywa na hii serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. Wakatuambia kwamba hali ya maisha gharama ya maisha itakuwa ya afadhali. Lakini kutoka wakati tumemalizana na uchaguzi, hizo ahadi zote tumepata ilikuwa maneno matupu. Kwa sababu gharama ya maisha imeenda juu, bei ya unga bado iko juu.
Shadrack Kareria, Lookuptv.
Internal Security Cabinet Secretary Keitany Kindiki has become the first sitting cabinet secretary in President William Ruto's administration to appear before the National Assembly under the amended standing orders requiring the cabinet to be accountable to Parliament in the performance of its duties. Kindiki fielded several questions from the lawmakers on matters security, with the volatile insecurity and the banditry at the northern parts of the country dominating questions and answer session on retender. Listened in, and it comes with more this morning.
After the bicameral parliament amended Standing Order 25A to allow cabinet secretaries to appear before the House to expound on government policy, reply to questions and provide reports concerning matters under their docket, on Wednesday, Internal Security Cabinet Secretary Keitany Kindiki was the first cabinet member in President William Ruto's regime to appear before the plenary. CS Kindiki fielding questions on an array of issues from the lawmakers.
What was out of order that Farah was saying?
The recent killing of a border operator that led to demonstrations in Chuka finding its way among the first questions directed to CS Kindiki.
Many extrajudicial killings that we have had, including the Yala River famous killings, Honorable Speaker, we would like to know what he is doing as a ministry in terms of policy level to improve on the efficiency of police investigation.
If the evidence links an officer of the National Police Service or any other government official in the murder of Mr. Kiraku, two things I would like to assure the House. One, whoever is responsible will be prosecuted. And two, if the person has died in the hands of our officers, the procedures for compensation will ensue.
Banditry and the deteriorating security in the volatile areas of Samburu, West Pokot, Turkana and Baringo dominated the private question session. CS Kindiki called to account in detail the government's elaborate plan to end the insecurity menace.
As we speak here today, Honorable Speaker, there are families, more than 50 households that have lost their animals, their livestock in the 1 a.m. raid in Turkana Central, in Turkana East, and in Turkana South.
My intelligence is that the bandit that was taken away in hospital in Iten is the one that killed my cousin. And he was taken by 10 bandits in an hospital in Iten, driven to wherever by the other bandits. Could the minister therefore tell us when that wounded bandit who was in hospital will be brought to book?
We are upscaling the numbers of security agencies we have. We are doubling them on Saturday. And as I've announced, this deployment will not cease with the end of the operation. Whenever the operation will be called off, the security agencies will remain there for as long as Kenya exists, to ensure that this problem does not recur.
With bandits finding a way to carry out the activities despite deployment of heavy security personnel, CS Kindiki was pressed to explain whether his officers have been overwhelmed by bandits.
Do we have a capacity as a country to handle this internal conflict? Because there has been a recurrent raids or conflict in this country. What are the plans?
To confirm to this House, Mr. Speaker, that the National Police Service are unable to handle the bandits, and bring a motion to this House so that we can have the Kenya military or the KDF to take over the operations of bandits in Kerio Valley.
We have been able to actually remove and dominate those areas and remove the threats that used to exist in those areas. But the spiral, what has happened is that during that window of notice we had given to be able to ensure that we don't have civilian casualties, some of these criminals could have mixed with the population. And because the security forces cannot be everywhere and guard every homestead, they are making sporadic raids, sometimes successful, But, Mr. Speaker, we have prevented and thwarted and even recovered livestock numerous times on a daily basis.
Under the new Standing Order 40, the Cabinet will be appearing before the House every Wednesday in the afternoon between 2:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. to explain government policy and respond questions relevant to various ministries. Henry Tende, Lookuptv.
President William Ruto has named the Commandant General Service Unit, Douglas Kirocho Kanja, as the new Deputy Inspector General of Kenya Police. Kanja emerged top after interviews by the National Police Service Commission last week. He takes over from Edward Mbugwa, who retired from the service. Kanja, the career police officer, rose through the ranks with the GSU to take over as the commandant of the support unit. He was named the commandant of the GSU then in 2018. The acting DIG, Abdallah Kamasha, was moved back to his former base at the DCI and named the head of the Investigations Bureau. The Engineers Board of Kenya has addressed the media on issues regarding buildings collapsing so frequently in the country. They have expressed their disappointment mostly in developers that are not using professionalism to put their investments, not forgetting the state of the consequences. Phoebe Wangombe with a full story.
The Engineers Board of Kenya, EBK, has sounded an alarm that most developers are not using professional engineers to put up their buildings. They have expressed disappointment in all developers who not only put their investments at risk, but also people's lives by not following the required procedures.
In the report, investigations revealed most developers do not involve engineers in the profession, and do not involve professional engineers and consulting engineers categories for the supervision.
And we are concerned particularly because of the developers. Because the developers are the main, are in the middle of all this. They are the ones who decide to invest in any structure.
EBK stated that their work is not to police around engineers, but to facilitate them. They added that engineers should not race on the fees of the construction, only for them to compromise on the quality.
We are saying, bring the professionals. They have gone to school. They are there for you. They have no other. They never went to school to do anything else, but to help the investors to do this.
They have gone ahead to urge members of the public to demand for an occupational certificate before occupying any building. The umbrella of engineers are now calling on all engineers to register themselves in the EBK portal and publish their work there for more evaluation.
I also want to finally appreciate that we are working with a lot of collaboration from many agencies. We are here with the President of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, and we appreciate your comments in terms of how we are also going to address the issue and working with the branches. We also have the Association of Consulting Engineers. This is an association for the engineers who have firms which are providing services to on engineering services in the country, and we're working very, very closely with them. I would also want to appreciate the Inspector General of Police, Bwana Kome. He has been very facilitative to us in terms of even access to the sites, and so we really do appreciate. For the engineers portal, we are going to ask all engineers, we appeal to all our engineers. When we have it ready, we'll roll it out, and by June, we hope that you'll be able to start registering your projects.
Phoebe Wangombe, Lookuptv.
As the world marked International Day for Street Children, Nairobi City County still struggles to clear street families whose numbers threaten to balloon owing to the high cost of living, which has occasioned a good number of the cases. Cecilia Lubanga with that story.
It was a momentous day for the lot. a more happier day that brought together street families, various stakeholders and social justice groups. The International Day for the Street Children. In Shaurimo, Nairobi County, a number of street families assembled at YMCA Community Center for a full-day session that saw various stakeholders address them on the dangers of leading a life in the streets.
Different organizations, starting from German Doctors, Share Some Love, MSF, Crime Si Poa, MCF, Slum Child, Pendekezo Letu.
However, from our interaction with a number of them, tough times and dynamics in the economy have pushed a majority of them to the streets. Such as Joseph Odro's case, whose base was Tomboya streets for the past 2 years.
Hali ya nyumbani vile nyumbani ilikuwa, sometimes hakuna keroma.
He found himself on the streets of Nairobi after surviving at home back in Kisumu County proved futile.
Nilidandia gari nikakuja hadi Nairobi. At least niliona Nairobi is the best, but haikuwa the best.
Nairobi has all manner of street children. They come from our neighboring counties. They come as far as Isiolo. Others are coming as far as Tanzania. So it's a problem that we need to tackle as in a multi-sectoral forum that involves all the counties, or majority of the counties that are near Nairobi.
While on the streets, he got indulged into drugs that almost ended his life. He met his savior 2 years later, who introduced him to a more decent life.
Mwingine hapa Mode Dairas anafanyanga kazi Mwangaza. Alikuja na one of the client mwenye alitoka Mwangaza, akatuambia story yake, alikuwa anatembea akituambia story yake, jinsi amepitia Mwangaza na Mwangaza imemsaidia.
For Njoro and his friend, they are grateful for being alive after several dangerous scuffles on the streets. In pursuit of hope through their talent, they were shortchanged. They are, however, still hopeful that someday they will make a successful headway out of the streets.
Kuwa hapa hivyo na watu wote wenye ushikilia ma street kete wenyewe wabarikiwe.
Some of the individuals who found their way here were already in their worst state, but they were definitely in safe hands.
We want actually to pick from the streets 200 children so that we can put them through a process and a program of rehabilitation, reintegration, and we get them back to their families if we are able to trace their families.
A good number of children remain in the streets of Nairobi as various stakeholders and human rights organizations rush against time to counter the situation that threatens to balloon odd to the current state of the economy. Cecilia Lubanga, Lookuptv.
A state of panic has spread within the Kainuk area on the border of West Turkana counties after a 70-year-old woman was killed and 2 others are seriously injured. Now, Tot Nakalia from Nadapal village had gone to fetch water from the river where he was attacked and shot. David Alex with a full report.
An aura of fear has engulfed Kainuk area of Turkana County after a 70-year-old woman was killed and 2 others were seriously injured. Natut Nakalia from Nadapal village was attacked and shot by bandits while she went to fetch water from the river. A transit goods driver and a Turkana County officer were also shot and seriously injured at Kakong while on their way to Lodwar town.
Approach Kakong na watu wakatokelezea kando kama watu 4 hivi, alafu wengine tena walikuwa wanafuata nyuma 4 na marisasi ikaanza.
The 2 who were in critical condition were rushed to Lodwar Referral Hospital for further treatment as residents called on the government to look for alternative methods to deal with bandits.
One of the injured persons is a county staff who is critically injured. However, they are currently receiving medication.
The northern region of Kenya has recently been facing an insecurity crisis brought about by bandits.
And I want to assure the House, through you, Mr. Speaker, that the deaths that have been caused in Samburu and other parts of the country as a result of livestock rustling and banditry are regrettable. 2, we have had an operation going on there, but we continue to experience incidents of bandit attacks from time to time.
Meanwhile, farmers from Magumu in Kinangop, Nyandarua County, are up in arms over rising cases of cattle rustling in the last couple of weeks. The farmers have accused livestock traders of theft while criticizing police from the area for failing to offer them support.
Wizi imeongezeka, hakuna watu hawezi chunga mifugo kwa area hii, yote inaibiwa kila wakati. Kuku, ng'ombe, buzi, punda, hata kwa mashamba, boga na viazi zinaenda.
A senior officer from Magumu Police, who declined to be named, noted that they had in the past arrested some suspect and arraigned them at the Naivasha law courts. David Alex, Lookuptv.
Right, and on our daily segment on your opinion matters, Kenyans have given their mixed reactions regarding bipartisan talks that are yet to kickstart. Let's listen in.
Ombi langu mimi naomba tu wasikizane kwa sababu si mara ya kwanza. Raila si mtu mgumu vile tunafikiria hivyo, kwa sababu si mara ya kwanza. Kuna wakati imetendeka wakati wa Kibaki na walikaa chini wakaongea kwa sababu ya nchi na kwa sababu ya raia, na ninaamini ya kwamba wataongea na wataelewana.
Watu tu wakae chini waelewane juu nini, saa hii economy iko juu sana. Ukiangalia kila kitu imepanda. Kila kitu imepanda, sasa unapata unafinyiliwa na unaona sasa kama uchumi sasa hivi venye iko. Kila mtu analia, hakuna pesa. Pia serikali inalia hakuna pesa. Mambo haiko sawa.
Vitu iko juu, food iko juu, rent, fare. Hata toki na sasa kwa duka unabaina vitu vingine, unga mfuko 2 na sukari. Sio nganga tu gharama maisha ipungue. Mambo itakuwa poa hapo.
These people are supposed to come together and talk about it and then to help other people, because this demonstration and more so these things bring so many damages and to ourselves. Then our society is breaking down because of this demonstration. So there is that key thing that they have to sit down and communicate together and then to decide the way forward.
First of all, the government has failed. It promised for 100 days, and now it's more than 100 days. And second thing, ngesema naomba tu God kufikia makubaliano, cause unajua kitu ya inasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida ni food moja kwa siku, but unapata sama hata kupatia food moja ni shida, na per day nafupate meals 3. And government unajua wanapandisha tax na hawajui kuna a lot of youth wako jobless.
These are some of the opinions from Kenyans regarding the bipartisan talks, which are expected to yield fruits in the coming days and weeks. Innocent Ogaro, Lookuptv.
Right, let's move on. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, alongside Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Babu Namwamba, Wednesday inspected Njukiri Sports Stadium. The second in command is also expected at the rehabilitation and upgrading of Moi Stadium, which will host this year's Madaraka Day celebration. The stadium has a capacity of 15,000 people with an Olympic-sized swimming pool, as well as other amenities of international standards.
Your Excellency, sir, drainage and the stormwater drainage, so that we get rid of all these pooling that you can see, and get rid of. There's also 90% of it is ready to take the root traffic. With ablutions at the bottom to serve. With ablutions at the bottom to serve.
Stadium ya kimataifa, international stadium, na pamoja na kutengenezea wafanyabiashara
30 clubs across the country, including academies, welcome freshly minted CAF coaches who are returning to their clubs after finishing a month-long CAF C held in Buruburu, Nairobi that ended yesterday.
Yes. Preparing training sessions, match day preparations, science involved in preparing players for the league. Yeah, and I think it'll help me a lot going back to my team. I think I'm going back a better coach because now I can go and apply what I've learned, which is you have to be able to.
I've learned how to plan my trainings, kitu ya kwanza. What to do and when to do it. When to do conditioning, when to do functional training, when to do it intensively, yeah, and how to handle different categories of different ages. Because mostly I'm dealing with from under 6 to under 10. So mostly I've learned here that our kona their kind of training and their way of handling. So basically nenda tu kuintroduce hiyo kwa group yetu na najua tutagrow.
I think I'm coming out from this course with a lot of confidence. Just being able to learn a lot of stuff has boosted my confidence as a coach because now I'm graduating now to a new license, and also I'm going to now implement it in my team. So again, I'm looking forward to some effective work performance, especially with the way I'm able to plan for my sessions, with the way I'm able to maybe plan for my pre-season, but most especially just being able to do training in the right way and just being able to again now practice whatever we've been able to study in this 1 month course. So I think whatever I'm coming out with from this course, again a lot of confidence as a coach, which is a very important tool while you're going to plan for your sessions, when you're going to coach, and also when you're going to maybe approaching matches. So in terms of match analysis as well, has been quite a very interesting model altogether, and I'm so excited. And
Multi-Olympic and world champion Shirley Ann Fraser-Price from Jamaica will defend her Keitany Classic 100 meters title on May 13th this year at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani. Meeting director Barnaba Correal said that the 2008 Beijing and 2012 London Olympics 100-meter champion will land in Kenya after competing at Botswana Golden Grand Prix on April 29th this year.
Basi mwanariadha kutoka kule Jamaica, Keitany Price ameweza kuandikisha muda bora kabisa katika uwanja huu wa Moi International Sports Center Kasarani, muda wa kasi ulimwenguni mwaka huu. Muda wa kasi, muda wa sekunde 10.67.
All right, now for those of us who like football, I'm going to give you the results of the quarterfinal match that was played yesterday. That is the Champions League match. That was actually 2. And Chelsea, who had nothing to play for this season other than the Champions League, essentially if you look at the position in the league, played to a 2-0 draw at Real Madrid. The goals that were scored by Karim Benzema and Marco Asensio, and Ben Chilwell got a red card, meaning that in the return fixture he's not going to be able to play. And also Napoli, who were touted one of their favourites then to proceed all the way to the finals, going by their form at the league, essentially played to a 1-0 defeat to AC Milan, but then one of their strikers, key men who've been sensational in their form this season, will be returning in the return leg. So we'll be seeing exactly if Napoli then would be among those who are qualifying for the semi-finals. Lampard, the coach for Chelsea, said it is not done yet, that good things can happen at the Stamford Bridge. Let's wait for that, because the owner, Todd Boehly, had predicted a 3-0 win yesterday, but things did not go as they expected. That's exactly what it is. We take a tiny breather. Once we come back, I'll be taking you straight to your dailies this morning before we get into our big conversation right here on The Morning Drift.
When we talk about when life gives you a bitter lemon,
Yes.
what comes to your mind?
What comes to my mind is now. Because Naomi lives Bethlehem together with her husband and their 2 children,
Yeah.
2 sons. And they go to Moab. And they were running from famine, because Bethlehem there was no food. And so they are going there.
Yeah.
While they're in Moab, Naomi loses her husband and the 2 sons.
There is always something. The purposes of God are always good.
Even in the time of bad,
Yes.
God is able to bring something good.
When you find yourself with bitter lemons, the best thing maybe would be to make a lemonade. And as you take the lemonade, you...
It's all about trying out fresh meals. As you know, your health comes first. Experience a tasty and sweet aroma in your kitchen today. It's not just about cooking, but also having fun, interesting conversations,
Hazibeni machipo wewe, nimekuambia napenda kuku.
keeping it professional, and not forgetting refreshing moments.
Oh, let me tell you, mine is gonna be
The Cook-Off with Alex Karani, Saturdays at 6 p.m.
Do you need a dose of hope? If so, you are in the right place. We think of ourselves around here as hope dealers, delivering truth, power, and inspiration to hearts and minds all over the world. If nothing else has worked for you, why not give the God thing a try? For it's in the presence of God that you'll find everything that you need. Amen.
Marriage is made up of 2 imperfect people.
Sure.
Who refuse to give up on each other.
Amen. Imperfect people who refuse to give up on each other.
A successful, a happy, a fulfilling marriage takes 2 people who are ready to forgive each other on a daily basis, on a moment-by-moment basis.
In marriage, we need commitment. We need to commit ourselves to this marriage. We don't get into it as a test.
Most of us who have a lot of expectation from our spouses, we never do an introspective
of ourselves
and see like, do I actually deserve that kind of wife?
through this, there's a tweet here by one chief returning officer of the concluded elections last year in August. This is Saitobao Ole Kanchuri. And this is what he said on April 12th, 2023. Now listen to this. There was no time when William Ruto was ahead of Raila Odinga in the Bomas count, apart from the final results released by Chebukati. Oh yeah? Get the book. Read it. It's called Baba the Fifth. Yeah? And we'll see exactly how. Yeah, there's a lot of excerpts from there that you're going to look at that would essentially then paint a picture of why Baba the Fifth did not happen. That's the headline for the book, you know? That's it. All right, on that note, let's take a look at exactly what is happening on your dailies this morning, which is essentially the same thing that we'll be talking about. I would like us to start with the standard shortly before we rush into the rest of the dailies that we have for you this morning. And yes, let's look at the standard this morning. The bigger headline here is Raila's Untold Secrets, right? And this is what Kanchuri did say in this one, is that in those days, if Junaid Mohammed told Baba someone was a Baba, let me just make that clear, told Baba that somebody was a Baba, you know, when he was a butcher, Mr. Odinga would unquestionably stick out his neck for a shave. That is a quote from this book, Baba the Fifth, from Saitabao Ole Kanchuri. Quite interesting when you look at it like this, you know. And so the headline here is Raila's Untold Secrets, and the kicker there is why Odinga lost. That's why in his new book, Why Baba is Not the Fifth, Azimio leader, chief agent in the last year's presidential election, Saitabao Ole Kanchuri spills the binge on the behind the scenes and intrigues that caused the opposition leader victory, among them the Tower of Babel, which is a quote from the Bible. Not so sure. Which verse is that? Tower of Babel? Can't be Matthew. Could be. I don't know. So you could tell us, once you read the book. Well, among them, the situation among the coalition top brass. So with that story on pages 4 and 5 of the Standard, so you can get an insight into that particular story. Let me just rush to page 4 and 5 so we can get more insight into exactly what this is. This was saying, you can actually see him there. That is the chief returning officer for Azimio. This picture that you're going to run in there of him on at the Bomas of Kenya, on the stage right there. And that's what he's saying. He paints a picture of a centaur flying blind with zero resources, lacking situational awareness, dysfunctional to the core, soaked in a clash of ambitions, and utterly disunited. Their candidate did not take particular interest in their activities. That's what he claims. And there's a quote, "You'll be shocked to learn that not once did Baba or Mother personally join our deliberations, whether as the National Chief Agent's team at the command center or even called to inquire on progress. The only time I sat down with Baba and Mother together was during the Supreme Court proceedings." It says in the book. There's another quote here that he puts it like this. Instead of taking responsibility and publicly apologizing to Mr. Odinga and his supporters, some of them are still milling around Baba and acting as if nothing happens. He writes in the book that was published by Rich Publishers, South Africa. All right, so you can read that story on pages 4 and 5 of the Standard. Is really would make for an interesting read. All right, this morning we'll probably shout out to my friend Titus of Kibanga Books. I saw him advertising it, so you can actually go there and get it. All right, also another story that has been covered here extensively on page 5. All right, I think there is no shoot to kill order on a crowd until CS Kithure Kindiki tells Parliament in his maiden appearance there was no shoot to kill order on a crowd management during the Azimio demos, reiterates zero tolerance policy on extrajudicial killings. That story is also covered on page 5, and this is what he's saying, and there's a direct quote, and that story, by the way, we covered this morning on Lookup News. That's what he said. I would also like to inform this House that it is no longer a requirement for children to have 2 parents registered at the point of birth. That's what he said. All right. That's what he made his maiden appearance before the National Assembly to answer questions raised by members who said that the national government or the National Police Oversight Authority were investigating the killings of a border operator in Chuka, the Tharaka County. He was actually answering to a question by Chuka Igambangombe Member of Parliament Patrick Munene, who wanted to know the circumstances that led to the killing of Daniel Mutembe on March 8th, 2023. So now it's right there. You would then start questioning the allegations by the Azimio, the Umoja leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, that in his final round of demonstrations, that there was a shoot to kill order against him. Did a detailed interview showing us how his cars, partly in his motorcade actually, were shot 7 times, according to him. And probably I should not do this right now. Good. All right. Now, again, let's go to pages 22. You're going to see how now Kerry is facing a race to find a new boss after General Gide Mburu quit or resigned, if you may want to call it like that. Then on page 9, there's a story on how Douglas Kanja is the new deputy police chief. Read that story on page 9. And for those who like sports, page 48 is how Pep Guardiola, that is the manager for Manchester City, got emotional after Manchester City won the Champions League match. All right. For all Arsenal faithfuls, we wish Man City the best of luck in the Champions League. We actually want them to proceed so that they can play more games. And we play once, you know, so they can get a couple of injuries here and there and get tired so we can actually draw in our clash against Manchester City in just 2 weeks to come. All right, let's cross over to the Daily Nation this morning so we can get to look at exactly what it is they're talking about right here as well. Now, this is the same story that they have outlined here on how Raila's agent now spills the beans on a poll loss. That's what they're saying in the kicker. Saitabao Ole Kanchori, who served as the chief agent of Azimio leader Raila Odinga in the general elections last year, has thrown the cat among the pigeons with his book, Why Baba is Not the Fifth, in which he tells of the chaos, power struggles, and infighting among top campaign managers that ensured the coalition's command center that was under the president Uhuru Kenyatta's brother, Muho Kenyatta. That is on page 7 of the Daily Nation. And if you go there, let's see whether we have some more interesting bits that would make you want to know more about this. This is what he said. Tower of Babel vote and team that cost Raila the presidency. All right. Now, some of them were afraid they wouldn't make it in Raila's inner circle ahead of other people who are already close to him. All right? Some of things here. It was an opportunity to make money. It claims that a majority of the top officials resorted to using the campaign period to make money in readiness for going home. Because, wow, this is huge. You gotta read this. That money in readiness for going home because of the feeling that they were unlikely to make it to Mr. Odinga's government. All right, stacks of cash. The campaigns therefore gave them the much needed opportunity to make money. A visitor to the office of one of the CSs was shocked to see that the CS kept his otherwise public office under lock and key. When the CS let him into the office, it soon became clear why. All right, read that story there on how some of them had no training, others were equally aged out, and how other people had vested interests, right? Now, the fact that top officials were not guaranteed a place in Raila's government meant the campaigns offered the last chance to show up their financial standing. Deep revelations there. So you can read that story on page 7 of the Daily Nation, right there. Good. All right. Let's look at other areas that are being covered here on the Daily Nation. On the front page, we have this story about how now there's an alarm as counties hurtle towards financial crisis. Talking about how counties are staring at a total paralysis in the coming days due to a cash crunch that has plunged the devolved units into an economic crisis. Read that story on the back page. They're talking about how countries are hurtling towards financial crisis. Right? But it's interesting because that picture right there of the COG, Anne Waiguru, was addressing journalists last year, as when we started covering these stories about how there was no money in the counties. When did you last see her talk about this issue? I don't know. Would have loved to see exactly how she would address it, but she hasn't completely. Yeah, this 93 billion actually is the amount of money in Kenyan shillings that the counties are owed in delayed equitable share of revenue disbursements, which has left them staring at full-blown financial crisis. Right now will be the time for us to get a statement from the Council of Governors, especially the chair, on what is the way forward, because this headline right here is interesting or scary to read. Now, let's talk about the cost of living that the government has been promising that they have a plan around. On pages 14, you're going to read a story on how Zambia has ruled out maize export deal. Zambia will not be exporting maize to Kenya following a defiant a deficit in local output. Its finance minister, Situmbeko Musokotowane, has said. So Kenya has to look for a different place to gather maize. Question whether this is a hole in their plan then to bring in this maize that we needed to stabilize the cost of maize right here in the country. More questions than answers. Now you don't know exactly what your dailies look like this morning. Once you grab yourself a copy this morning as well. Some of the stories have been covered on our website, www.lookuptv.co.ke, also online at Lookuptv. Take a short break. Once we come back, let's talk about drug and substance abuse. We are commemorating that day today. So more interesting conversations coming up. I am Simba Kiage.
Utachagua sura au tabia unapotaka